Hello guys, my name is Adam Shadow, and these two things in front of me are currently the most compact one-wide tileable, fully hopper locking item filters and box loaders. These things operate at 1x hopper speed, unlike my previous designs which used actually double the rates. However, these are way less than half as laggy. These things are probably 10 times, maybe 100 times less laggy because they are not triggering droppers at every 4 game ticks when they are running, and they also have all of these hoppers, as I mentioned, locked, unlike those previous versions, which basically were just meant for a challenge, which for some reason sparked a lot of interest in the storage community. These machines have two variants basically. This one is using a global hopper line to transport the boxes. This is very convenient because it basically means that it has the same bottleneck as the refilling of boxes, which is basically this pipe here. It's a global line of hoppers that goes over these hoppers for each slice that put the items into this dropper and later into this dispenser, which allows this machine to refill them. Obviously, I'm not using full boxes, fully empty boxes. I'm using almost full boxes just to make the testing a lot easier and faster. This redstone dust here actually might deceive you a little bit. If you place two of these machines next to each other, it won't lock this hopper, which is how it should be, because otherwise the boxes will just never get to the end, even if just one slice locks this hopper line. The way this works is basically it uses a simple item sorter. This one is really nice because it actually locks all hoppers except the one that has to be unlocked for all item filters. And it's also probably the easiest one to build, and probably also the most known one. Then, when the box is full, this comparator outputs a 15 single strength. This is currently 14. That's necessary to not trigger adjacent slices. That's why this here is actually buffered. Then the Steve flip-flop activates, which breaks the box by transferring the signal obviously up here. It also unlocks this hopper for a short period of time. This idea of using a torch from below was from Binary. He really helped me with this quite a bit because previously what I was doing, I was actually using a sticky piston, just like this, that I triggered from above. This also works. However, then the machine is wider, and it also prevents the option from externally locking this hopper line here. So this way is basically the same size, because I also found a way how to make this one block less tall when the piston was on the right side. However, this is probably a bit more versatile, and technically speaking it also fills a smaller area since it's more of a rectangle than a square, but that's something you probably only know if you know how calculations of area work, and I don't want to bother you with this. It also has the advantage of about my previous design that it's actually cheaper, so that's all thanks to Binary. Then he also told me about the idea to use a water stream and therefore have this hopper here locked. He used a much different design for it. So I decided to take it more as a challenge to build myself something, and this turned out to be a lot less complex and more compact. The main advantage of this is it technically creates less lag, since here you will have a water stream. The reason why you need 2 blocks is basically every 8 or 9 blocks you actually need to put a trapdoor and put the water on top of it, because otherwise you either would have to have a gap there or somehow use some maybe future version water techniques, but currently this is sadly necessary, and probably even 1.13. Therefore we have quite a bit more space here at the bottom. Sadly it still is 1 block wider, simply because, well, you can only lock this hopper from this side, like this, or some other configuration, but only from this side. That means I can't have dust here on top. I also can't place a block here, because that would interfere with this filter. Since, as you can see, I can't put the comparator here, which is kind of sad. So this is a bit bigger. It's actually 1 block taller and 1 block wider, but you save quite a bit of lag on this unlocked line, and also, at least in a short burst, is not limited by the hopper line itself, since that's 9,000 boxes per hour. That means if you make this long enough, you can eventually run into issues with that. If you want to make it so that it doesn't break even over a long period of time, you would also need to replace this thing here with a water stream instead of these two things, which is perfectly doable, but then it's even bigger, which I don't think is usually necessary, since many storages are also limited at processing boxes at hopper speed. There are two things that make this a little bit less trivial than it seems. For example, you can't place a piston like this. I actually thought this was possible because there is a machine with this on the storage archive, but that turned out to be unreliable, because if you have 2 of these next to each other and they power at, I think, 4 game tick offset, they'll actually break. Obviously it would also interfere with this torch, but then you can use the piston I suggested previously. So you have to sadly have it like this. And also there's probably not really a way to move this. For example, if I try this, you can see it's powered. So I basically was forced to make it like this. That's why you may think, oh, there's a lot of empty space here, but that's actually necessary. Sadly, I don't know of a way to avoid this, and we couldn't come up with one. Here it's actually a bit better theoretically on the empty space, but just because this is 3 blocks high. The way this actually works is quite interesting. This repeater here provides just enough delay, this 8 game ticks, while this is 2, this is another 2, this is another 2, and this is 4. This means this is 10 game ticks, and the torch and this observer have the same delay of 2 game ticks. So that this hopper actually unlocks 2 game ticks before the box is broken and stays unlocked for 6 game ticks after that, which should give it more than enough time, even crazy cases, to end up in the hopper. The only interference between 2 parts, between 2 slices, is actually this dropper here, and it's mathematically possible that there would be a case where two of these slices activate at the wrong timing 9 times in a row. The wrong timing basically means they trigger at the same time. Actually, it's more than, well, no, yeah, 9 times in a row, and that way one of them would actually run out of boxes. So that's possible, but it's insanely unlikely to happen. And if you want to remove that, you just replace this torch here so it refills the dropper all the time. And you probably will need to make it somehow go down and up or something like that, because of how this layout is designed. It actually powers this through a solid block. So yeah, that's sadly a little bit of a theoretical downside, but it's extremely unlikely to happen. Like, you could even time the input here so that that never happens. You could basically send just a large batch of boxes or large batch of items every, let's say, 10 game ticks or something like that. That way this won't occur. Other than that, this is practically unbreakable. Like, this works from my testing every single time. Like, I did not have a single case where the items will not get collected in 1.12. That's probably mainly this Hopper hitbox. But I even tested with a configuration similar to what we would get in the future versions, where the Hopper hitbox here at the bottom is as wide as this fence, which is kind of really convenient to test. I will show you that test just in a second. And this thing also does not preserve slices, which means the boxes can sometimes end up, for example, if there was a hopper here, sometimes in this hopper, but it's still really unlikely. Like, the chances are miserable, like maybe 1 to 1,000 or something like that, and even that only if two of these slices activate at the same time, which in and of itself only happens like 1 out of, I think it was something like 800 or 900 cases. So like the chances of it not slice preserving are way under 1%, which usually is more than enough for casual use. So you could theoretically convert it into a slice preserving variant, but then you would probably need at least a hopper here. But not with this one. With this one you can actually put droppers like this and it will work, which is kind of crazy. So since this means it's also slice preserving and non-slice preserving in the same form factor, of course then it would not fire them probably into a water stream, since you would probably want to keep this thing, for example, firing like this into a chest and have this, for example, inside your storage hallway or something crazy like that if you want to. But I very much prefer this layout because it allows us to unload this when it's not needed, right? Like, if you make it a hard part of your chest hole, you can't really unload it when you are using the storage, when this is not used. And usually most items come from farms that fill them into boxes anyway, so you don't usually need to worry about this unless you are processing player input. Let me show you the little test I made. is on the Prototech CMB server, by the way, if you are wondering. If you have access to that, you can see this yourselves. This is a little test rig I created, where basically every 16 game ticks, you can count these are 8 observers here, 8 observers down here. This command block copies this full dispenser of boxes down here, and it gets broken. And here you can see in a short moment when I tick warp it that this doesn't fail, even with the new hitboxes, since this is basically the same hitboxes of the hoppers in 1.13. So let me fire this up. If it would fail, we would actually see the box land somewhere here, either on the piston or here on this side or on this side, or somewhere on this glass or something like that. So let's fire this for, let's say, 100 boxes. It should be pretty quick. This is also shorter than the despawn time, so we don't use, so you can basically safely believe me that they are not despawning. The reason why I used 3200 was basically because this is a 32 game tick clock. And as you saw, none when missing or flying. I even tested this with 1000 boxes and not an issue. So I'm pretty confident to say this thing is nearly 100% reliable. And now let's see how well it works if we attempt to check the slice preservation. For that I will have to slightly reconfigure this. I'll take these out because they probably got there while I was building it. Okay, now let's run 100 boxes. And keep in mind, this is in case there are no boxes on the side. So this only happens when, for example, 2 slices activated at the same time. So 0 and 0. Yeah, so this is stupidly reliable. If it doesn't fail out of 100 attempts, even once, you are very well off. So yeah, that's probably it for this video. Thank you guys for watching and have a nice day. Please like and subscribe so you can be notified when I make more of these nice videos about new machines, which there will be quite more coming in a short while.